Hello, everyone. Very nice to see you all here. Thank you very much for coming to our concert. And yeah, apologies in advance for my thick Eastern European accent. Maybe not always clear, but give me a wave if it's not. Welcome to Talent Unlimited Lunchtime concert series dedicated to underrepresented composers. Today, me and my dear friend Roxana are going to perform for you a program consisting of Belarusian contemporary composers. It is worth mentioning that primary idea for putting this program together for me was the 5 years anniversary that happened earlier this month after the falsification of presidential elections in Belarus and the brutal reprisals that are held till the current moment by Belarusian government towards Belarusians who expressed their oppositionary opinion. So by being a Belarusian in exile and seeing you all here, it felt like a duty for me to raise some awareness among you what is happening with our country at the moment, because myself meeting people in London, I usually find myself in this situation. Oh, hi, where are you from? I'm from Belarus. Oh, where is that? So I thought it would be quite beneficial for you to spend some time with us this afternoon and know a little more about Belarus and our traditions and culture. So we would like to start our concert with violin and piano sonata, excuse me, by Galina Gorelova. Galina Gorelova is a hugely interesting character. She was probably one of the first female composers in Belarus who gained a huge success on Belarusian musical scene. As well as she was the first female professor who held the position of head of the composition department in Belarusian State Academy of Music. So a couple weeks ago, as well as on the duration of our preparation period for this concert, she was incredibly helpful in guiding us through her piece. And also, 2 weeks ago, I asked her to write a show letter for English audience and share some details and maybe some background which inspired her for composing that piece. So please allow me to read you this. Hello, Yeva. I'll try to answer your questions. You know that a huge amount of music appeared only because there was someone to write it for. And if there was a wonderful performer, then composers of all ranks will write for him and his instrument. My sonata was written for Lev Davidovich Gorelik. In 1979, he brilliantly played my violin concerto, and the impression that his artistic and human appearance made on me has accompanied me all my life. He was a legendary person, a wonderful violinist, a musician infinitely devoted to his instrument and his profession. I have rarely met such responsible and disciplined people in my life. He was never a minute late for rehearsal. He thoroughly analyzed the music that came to him. He was infinitely demanding of himself and the artists of orchestra of the Belarusian Opera and Ballet Theatre, where Gorelik held the position of concertmeister for over 40 years and was its first violin until the end of his days. Coming from a poor family of a Jewish cab driver, there were 7 children in the family, Gorelik entered the music school of his hometown of Babruisk. The parents, amazed by the boy's abilities, showed their son to the Moscow violinist Professor Yampolsky, who took him to the Central Music School in Moscow. After returning to Belarus after an illness, there was a persistent study, competitions, and, as a result, incredible demand. He never refused anyone, regardless of whether it was a venerable composer or a budding artist. Now about the sonata. My favorite genre is instrumental concerto. I like the main conceptual opposition possible in this genre, the soloist and the orchestra, me and others, or personality and society, individuality and crowd. I'm sure you remember that this opposition reaches its absolute in Schnittke's fourth violin concerto with the soloist's mute cadenza saying, "Nobody is able to hear you, nobody cares about you." This conceptual dichotomy is easy to find in all my 10 concertos and in the violin sonata. It begins with a monologue of the personality, the individual, and his soul. In addition, I wanted the beginning of the sonata to be precisely the solo, so that nothing would interfere with the magical sound generated by Lev Gorelik's instrument. Well, and then in the music of the sonata, as in the life of any person, various cataclysms begin. In other words, everything that Berlioz called episodes from the life of an artist. The four in this one-part sonata, contrasting sections replace each other. Nocturne, like the lyrical andante in the classical cycle. Funeral episode, an attribute of romantic music. Fugue, ragtime, as if an association with scherza in the classical sonata cycle. All these episodes are the usual earthly existence of a person. But no matter what happens, no matter what twists and turns he gets into, the soul remains alive. Therefore, everything ends again with a solo violin, a tribute to the living soul of the musician. Right, so next piece that we are going to perform is Slonim Kalyada by Larysa Simakovich. So Larysa Simakovich is a very versatile artist. She is a composer, she is a choreographer, a dancer, a singer, an artistic director of folklore theater in Belarus. So she's probably the most well-versed composer at the moment in Belarus. And by performing her piece, I thought it would be really beneficial because you could really feel the aesthetics of Belarusian folk culture. And now a couple of words about the title of the piece. Slonim Kalyada, what is that? Slonim refers to the region in Belarus, city Slonim. Kalyada could mean several things. One of them is the personification of newborn winter sun, and another thing, it's a celebration in the name of Kalyada. So we usually celebrate it around Christmas dates in Belarus. Why do we celebrate that? The reason is that before Christianity spread on Belarusian land, people did believe that such hard weather conditions during winter are connected with activation of evil spirits like demons and witches. So Kalyada was supposed to fight those evil spirits, and us, by performing a number of rituals, we were supposed to help him. So a couple words about the rituals. One of them should be very familiar to you by celebration of Halloween here. Which is during Kalyadki, we are doing masks of animals or any different sorts of beasts, really, probably to scare those evil beasts away. Another tradition is the number of singers in the village are going around houses and singing carols in exchange for treats and money. Very specific to Belarusian tradition of celebrating Kalyadki is puppet theater Batleyka. It's a very cute thing. It's a small wooden box which is decorated as a scene with little puppet dolls attached to the stick, and it's led just by one performer. So no other words, we're just going to perform the piece. Thank you. next two pieces that we are going to perform are written by Olga Podgaiskaya. Funnily enough, my acquaintance with her music started here in London, in Barbican Theatre. A year ago, an artist of Belarusian Free Theatre brought, one of them is smiling here, brought a play by Vladimir Karatkevich called The Wild Hunt of King Stach. Olga, this play was combining elements of a drama and opera, so Olga wrote the music for that. And I remember myself sitting in the theater and being so incredibly proud of my fellow people and thinking, wow, they achieved such a success. They're performing in Barbican. They're having amazing reviews from news agencies and portals. And at that time, I got inspired, so I wrote a message to Olga. And I was not really expecting that she will respond to me because she is a very acclaimed and successful composer on international scene. But I did hear back from her. And in fact, we did establish a very friendly and nice communication. I remember every time I was getting a message from her, I was giggling as I received a message from my crush. So I asked Olga to also summarize the background behind writing these pieces for you in a short letter. Olga wrote the following. The first piece that we're going to perform is a silent zone, and she wrote the following words about that. There are many street signs in Warsaw with these words in places where you can't make noise. And when they tell me not to make noise, I want to scream. And I thought it was a very beautiful image. The next piece that we're going to perform is also by Olga Podgaiskaya. The name of it is Ups and Thunder, and as Olga explained her motivation on writing this piece, it is a poem by Alexander Vidensky. It is an image of thunder that is not there, but after these words, it still sounds in head. And in this piece, I wanted both the violin and the organ to be equal, so there are moments where the organ plays main part and violin is accompanying it. like to finish our concert with a piece that is probably well known to any Belarusian, no matter the age or location at present times. We will perform Kupalinka by Vladimir Terauski, originally arranged for cello and orchestra, but we will perform it on piano and violin today. In 2020, during the most brutal episodes of fights between Belarusian army forces and Protestants, here, well, not exactly here, in Scotland, musicians of Royal Scottish National Orchestra probably felt their need to express some sort of support towards Belarusian nation. And Chris Go, a member of this orchestra, arranged this piece for Alexei Kiselyov, a famous Belarusian cellist, who at that time held the position of principal cello. So Chris made an arrangement for Alexei and members of Royal Scottish National Orchestra. At that time I was in Belarus, and this clip went absolutely viral. And I remember being present in Belarus and feeling so much hope from watching this video. It seemed to me if there are people who internationally care what's happening in Belarus, probably we have a chance for a victory. Couple of words about the composer who originally written this piece. Vladimir Terauski, throughout his life, faced multiple imprisonments because he was always true to himself and expressed very wildly his discontent with Soviet Union leadership and its policies and its censorship. His life ended very tragically in 1937, on 29th of October. During the night, KGB took him from his house, together with a number of the most significant figures of Belarusian cultural scene. They brought them to forest and they executed them, obviously without any official notice of that. Many years after, while this piece would be performed on stage, it was never written that this piece is composed by Terauski. It was always written as it is just a Belarusian folk song. So Soviet Union was trying to erase his name from our memory, but luckily it's not forgotten till nowadays. This piece includes lyrics, and if there are any Belarusians present in this hall, we would very much like you to stand up and sing together with us playing, but only when it reaches the loud point. Please don't sing when it's piano. And I just would like to shortly read you the translated lyrics of this song. Kupalinka, Kupalinka, dark night, where is your daughter? My daughter is in the garden, plucking the roses, piercing her white hands. Plucking the flowers, weaving wreaths, shedding her tears.